They live. We live. Let's go. Welcome everyone to Aquarian Anarchy. Our quote for tonight is from Patrick Henry. The liberties of the people never were, nor ever will be secure when the transactions of their rulers may be concealed from them. And we are going to unconceal some shit. We're going to talk a little bit about, well, you saw it. You saw the thumbnail. You saw the way that we had it all set up. The occultocracy, as we shall call it. Marcus, Nicco, how y'all doing, gentlemen?
Doing well. Feeling a little under the weather, but otherwise I'm doing okay. What you doing, Nicco?
It'd be weird if you were above the weather, so I'm glad. I'm not glad. I hope you.
What it do with you, beautiful folks? We are good over here in Planet Nicco. You feel me? I'm sorry, I'm going to be eating in front of you guys. So
are you eating with chopsticks?
No, this is a kuto.
Oh, okay. Okay. I briefly saw it like out of the corner of my eye as I was going through, but so let's get right to it. Marcus, this was one that, when we were kind of kicking around, the reason we're doing this on Tuesday night instead of Wednesday night like we normally do, I'm going to be traveling, so I've got work tomorrow night and not going to be able to do the show tomorrow night. So rather than cancel the show or try to figure out a way to like squeeze it into a tight window, we just went a day early. So here we are. And Marcus, this was our old idea. Yeah, this is our old time. That's right. Back in the day. Back when we used to pre-record this shit. But Marcus,
moving up in the world.
You put out a request for, what are we going to talk about? What do y'all want to talk about? And you came up with this idea. So I'm going to since this was kind of your brainchild to do this, and we just kind of were like, yeah, let's go with this. I want you to, what is it that's like kind of going through the news right now and the trending topics that made you want to jump on this topic?
Well, there's a lot because it has been for years. First of all, for those that don't know what the occult is, to kind of define our terms, all the occult means is the hidden. And it's gotten the, I guess the standard meaning of being something magical or like a group of magicians or Satanists or what have you. And those that watch our show pretty regularly know that I'm not a Christian and that I have very different beliefs. And a lot of my beliefs get lumped into what they call the occult. And I'm not really an occultist. I do study things that are hidden, which kind of makes it that way, but I don't believe in hiding things. Aleister Crowley. Yeah, Aleister Crowley's
right.
Right. Question. So, like symbolism, that's a form of occultism, right?
Sure.
Okay. No.
Yeah, and Aleister Crowley said that, and a lot of people don't like Crowley, and that's because most of the time they've never read him. But Crowley said that secrecy is the enemy of truth, and I think that is absolutely a fact. When things are hidden, they are not disseminated so that people can find out the deeper meaning of things. And I was watched several months ago. I watched a YouTube video with Chris Rice, who is a AA alumni, and he had interviewed Mark Passio, who is also a magician and a Thelemite, which is the philosophy of Aleister Crowley. I'm not a Thelemite, but I am influenced from there. And but Mark Passio started coining the term occultocracy because what we are living in, whether you're talking about the people that get together in the woods that are a little bit bohemian and like to hang out in the grove, those people, or you're talking about the global economic forum, if you get what I'm saying.
We get you.
Right.
Yeah.
These are people that rule
the
from
forum of global economics.
Correct. Right. And so these people, two sides of that. The first part is that they do hide what they're doing, and they couch it in a lot of falsehoods and misleading rhetoric to actually say what they're doing wouldn't be popular. They wouldn't be able to get it done because what they're doing is enslaving people. And so that's one side. But on the other side, they absolutely, and by they I mean these hidden groups that are behind, or the new world organization, if you will. Yeah, those people couch all of this symbolism that they use in magical symbolism. There's lots of 666s. You see the carbon, which is which carbon, if people don't know, is 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons. So they put carbon symbols on everything. One of the major ingredients to the jab was carbon. So they're outright injecting 666 into people. These are things that are facts. These are things that are absolutely going on. And so what we are looking at is the world controlled by hidden forces using magic, and what I would term negative magic, or what most people call black magic, to manipulate people. And we need to fight against that. And how you do that is by bringing things to the light. And that's what I intended to do tonight.
There you go. So, yeah, go ahead.
Push back on that 666. Only due to the rhetoric that I indulge into. But 666 is also reference for time as well. And I don't necessarily believe that all forms of the trace sixes should be only entitled to that ideology. It's like a toothbrush, you use a toothbrush for your teeth, but you could clean your shoes with it, comb back your baby hairs and shit like that.
Clean the mold in between the tiles in your shower,
Yeah. So
you just don't want to use that one on your teeth.
But I don't necessarily think that it should only be tied to demonic ideology and thought.
Absolutely. Most people don't know that if you take in Hebrew and write out Yeshua, or it's actually Jesus Christ, or something like that. Crowley got into it. But if you take the full name of Jesus and you spell it out in Hebrew, it equals 666. And also, if you take, if so-and-so beget so-and-so, so-and-so beget so-and-so at the beginning of the Old Testament, if you add the first letter of all of those together, you get 666. So I agree with you, Nicco. It's just a symbol.
So I don't know about all that because I haven't done the actual stuff myself, but I'll take them at their word. But I will say this: we've talked a lot about this, about the Antichrist and about how that would manifest itself. And if you think about it, how fitting would it be that something like that, similar to an Antichrist type figure, that people think of the Antichrist as being this horrible, obviously demonic sort of entity, when in actuality it's going to be the devil in a blue dress. It's going to be something very appealing, very attractive,
it's going to be a bad bitch,
very charismatic, and all these things. So and is going to make you think that it's Christ. That's how the Antichrist pulls off what the Antichrist is capable of pulling off, is by appearing to be Christ while undermining Christ in the process. And so that would be interesting and make sense if that is the case, in fact. But I wanted to point out something else that just kind of dawned on me as you were talking, Marcus, about the hidden versus, what was the thing that Crowley said, that
secrecy is the enemy of truth.
Secrecy is the enemy of truth, right? So there's secrecy, right? Which secrecy sometimes is appropriate because you don't need to let the enemy know what you're doing, because you're the good guys, and if they find out, they're going to kill you, that sort of thing. So secrecy is not necessarily always a bad thing. Hiding the truth is not always a bad thing. And even when it comes to, this is what dawned on me, this whole idea of this drag story hour, drag queen stuff where these kids are being taken to these drag shows and all this stuff is the juxtaposition of all of this occultism, all of this hidden agenda stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then juxtaposed with that is this overt, inappropriate, age inappropriate revelation of something that kids should not be exposed to yet. It's an overexposure. And I wanted to kind of draw that distinction between there's an appropriate time for kids or adolescents to start to learn certain things about the human body and sex.
Is that me?
You froze, Chad. No.
Who?
Yep.
I froze?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you're back.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I
It's
try
okay.
not to freeze. I'm trying to keep it nice and toasty over here.
There's no police here.
Right. So what is the what are these little dogs? Okay, yeah, no, I'm sorry. All right, my bad. Little notification things distract me like very much. I have to I'm a I don't know.
It's okay.
I'm one of
Chad.
these I'm a
It'd be like
minimalist
that,
when it comes to that stuff. I hate seeing the little numbers, so I have to
Wait. Like, are you the type of person that like gets really irritated when there's like a whole bunch of tabs opened?
So I have a bunch of tabs open, so no, apparently not.
I am.
But if I have little red badge icons on my phone, they must go away.
So if it's colorful,
it's
an
whack-a-mole.
alert.
It's whack-a-mole. No, it's just like I need to know what. Okay, what is this? Oh, it's not telling me anything. All right, get rid of it. Or it's telling me something. I need to address it. Back to the story at hand. So, what I'm seeing is there's an appropriate time to discuss certain topics with children, and even discuss whether it's faith-based topics. There's certain things that like certain minds are capable of understanding, and then there's other stuff where you have to wait for them to mature so that they can fully understand something. We know we all watch a movie that we saw when we were 10 years old, and we're like, oh shit, that's what that was about. You know what I mean? Like you go see
Right.
or you listen to a song, you're like, oh, that's what they were talking about. You know, like shit like that.
Actual.
You weren't ready to understand it yet. And so in a way, it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world for someone to not expose you to that until the appropriate time. So I just find it interesting that we're all adults and they're hiding shit from us. Like we're too stupid and not ready to be able to understand why they have to do all the shit that they have to do, why all these legal documents and bills that they pass in Congress are 3,000 pages long. And like Nancy Pelosi said, we'll find out what's in it after we pass it.
Right.
Shit like that.
What the fuck?
Oh yeah, that was in Obamacare maybe or one of these.
Yeah, well, it was
stimulus bill.
Obamacare.
Yeah, it's not surprising. Not surprising.
And they say stuff like, well, if they're not going to pass it, we'll just, we'll catapult over the wall and we'll do, whatever we have to do, we'll get it through. And so they did like this demon pass where they like passed it in the House and the Senate wouldn't approve it because they didn't have the votes. So they just like, they had the Senate approve something else. And then they just like pretended like they passed. Anyway, it's just this weird, they play all these little tricks and games. But then when they want to do something that's horribly inappropriate, they will right out in front of the children have people wearing giant dildos and walking around, sticking, money in their ass crack and all this other kind of stuff. And people dressed up, in S&M gear, getting petted like they're dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the juxtaposition that I saw was this hidden versus exposed versus appropriate and emergent, like revelation or discovery.
Sure.
That's what's appropriate is the emergent and appropriate revelation and discovery, not necessarily simply hiding things and hiding them forever or exposing people to things that they shouldn't be exposed to yet, but finding the right time and the right place to have things revealed in the appropriate way.
Sure. In particularly what Crowley was talking about is the Golden Dawn, which was one of the fraternal orders he was a member of, was big on secrecy. And he believed that by keeping it from the public, you were keeping people from being able to spiritually grow, and he wanted people to be able to do that. So it was specific in context with that. But I want to add, because I agree with you, that they are putting a lot of things out in the open. And another thing, and Amber and I had a conversation this past weekend about this as well. One of the things that they're also doing is they are getting rid of law. You can't go to New York City, you can't go to Chicago, you can't go to any big city and not be faced with people being allowed to rob and steal. Right. And what that says to me is not only are they using direct, like, magical symbolism, but it is specifically directing things towards evil ends. They are destroying morality. They are destroying religious doctrine. I'm not a Christian, but dang it, most people don't want to look into all this crazy stuff. They just want to find God. And so by destroying the things like the Christian faith, or the Muslim faith for that matter, it doesn't matter what faith it is, but by destroying people's pathways to God, what they are doing is, or taking down these religions, is they're taking away their ability to unite with God. And they're promoting evil things like lawlessness. And by law, I'm talking about Bastiat's kind of law, not something some psychopath passed because he didn't want people to smoke weed or whatever. But so what we're particularly seeing is a rise in what Mark Passy, in what?
Degeneracy,
yes. But what we're seeing is a rise
into this, right?
Sure.
So if you steal $1,200 or whatever, what's the number in San Francisco? Isn't it something like that? It's like,
right.
It's some number over $1,000.
Right.
And if you steal that,
about shoplifting.
Yeah, if you shoplift, it falls under petty theft, and it doesn't count. They won't even
as long as it doesn't accumulate. I think to 1,000 or 10,000, one of the two. I think it's 1,000.
But the point is, they're not even. They'll let you steal up to that amount. Mm-hmm. But if you sell some shit on eBay and make $600, they're sending the feds after you. They're sending you a 1099 so they can get their cut out of it. That's what what Marcus was saying. It's like this lawlessness. We're not talking about that, which is like arbitrary bullshit where they say, "Hey, you owe us some of that because we're us and you're you." They're saying they're going to keep doing that and keep getting their cut. But if somebody comes and knocks off your store, fuck it. Sucks for you.
Right. Which is encouraging bad behavior. Mm-hmm. In the schools, they're not allowing teachers, and I worked for a school at one time, and they won't allow teachers or people at the school to correct children that are acting badly. They won't let them, which encourages them to act even worse. I'm
not gonna lie to you. As soon as, I guess, my generation left high school, it got I can say my little brother Tyson, for sure, his generation was, I guess, the last of last hopes, and that was probably, I don't remember. Long story short, it's like the more and more you go, even though there's change, there's still a lot more foul things that are allowed to happen. And it's starting to exacerbate itself and just make it much worse than what it was. So, for example, they took away trades from high schools probably around you guys' era, and you guys had more things to work for and work towards, and they didn't really want to kick you guys out of school. You guys had specific set things. Now, kids are all over the place. Actually, it's kind of fucked up. Over at HF, what I heard, not what I know for a fact, I have to ask my little brothers, but from what I heard, they segregated the kids over at the high school that I went to.
Like boys and girls, crazy. Or by race?
Race.
Oh, by race. Oh,
race.
Okay. And I'm guessing it's because they want to protect the black folks from the evil white folks.
One of the white kids a couple of years ago did a blackface, you dig? Him and his boys did a blackface, and I actually know the kid, which is crazy. They did a blackface little prank, and it kind of got bad for the white students, and they did a whole walkout and things of that nature. But long story short, degeneracy.
Right, for sure. And another little piece of the puzzle that the occultocracy is rolling out right now as well. Mark Passio again, and I've been watching his videos, and I suggest people look him up after the show. And he's got lots of good videos on many of these kinds of topics. And he calls the cult of the followers, which was initially like the police and the military. They're a cult, and they follow the orders of the occultocracy, and they are they don't question their orders, they just do what they're told. And in the past 2 years they have expanded that, and this is me, not Mark, but what they have done is they have expanded their order follower base from the police and military to the vast majority of people. Go get your vax, go do this, go do that, for no real reason.
That was like what I was saying, like, I don't know, a year and a half or so ago, when we talked about, we always used to use the ants, or the Bugs Life movie with the ants kind of locking arms together against the grasshoppers as like this, battle cry for like, anarchists, libertarians, whatever, that like, look, if we can just get everybody to, it's like, no, they got like half the ants to like yell at you and beat the shit out of you if you didn't go along with the grasshoppers.
Right.
Like they had those folks, like, and I know in the movie there was a contingent of the ants that were just like, no, just feed the grasshoppers and let's go hide and do our, like, just pay your taxes and let's go about our business. Don't rock the boat. But when all hell broke loose and they realized that like they were kind of up a creek, they had to really, really, figure things out. And it's funny because I've been reading this book right here, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Highly recommend it. And there's this discussion about how like when you're pushed through an emergency, sometimes you can find a way to get creative and really think in a way that you haven't thought before. I'm sure you're kind of experiencing this right now with with your hunt and everything. It starts to get some gears turning and some light bulbs flashing that maybe had been turned off or disengaged for a while, because when we're going through the motions of, just keeping the thing afloat, it's real easy to stay in that rut. So it's in a lot of ways, I think thankfully I have witnessed a lot of people, and you've seen a lot of it here recently in the last few months. A lot of people are saying like they got the shots and they're regretting it, or they got the shots and they're standing up and they're fighting for the people who didn't, to not have all these measures taken against them. And I think that's where, and we've talked about this for a long time, that it was very important early on that we make sure that we didn't message this us against them type of message to people, because we're going to need each other. And we can't do it without them, because all of these people, everybody up and down the chain, I think you get less and less victim-y as you get further up the chain of command. But even some of these doctors and nurses who, like, they've been indoctrinated by this whole medical complex, the medical industrial complex that exists, especially in America. But really the world over, because you saw it in New Zealand, Australia, all over Europe, and in Israel. It was they had it really bad. But it's seeing that these people, everyone is just some degree of victim of the same, occultocracy, even if they kind of join in as part of the occultocracy. So what it's our job to do, and what Peter Kraft, who talked about this in his culture war thing, is like, these are all patients. And even though some of them may be going around and poisoning other patients, it's because they've been poisoned. So it's, to just throw out the baby with the bathwater is not necessarily the appropriate approach. So I'm glad that we've been kind of doing things the way that we've been doing them. Because I think it's been it's made it to where we haven't had to do a lot of that, like eating crow over, like, oh man, I wish we hadn't said that because there are people who said, F y'all, you shouldn't be able to go to the doctor. You shouldn't be able to go to the hospital. And if you die, it's on you, kind of bullshit. And I've never engaged in that kind of nonsense because it's psychopathic.
Yeah, it's buying into the same problem. And what I've always said, and when I worked for Adam, one of the things that I did is at that time, at the beginning of that journey, I also worked for a school system, and they had police that worked within the school system. And one of the things I said then, and I said this directly to the police that worked on site, is that when we actually get to freedom, we're going to need them. And to the police. And I'm not a big fan of the police. I don't like what has been done, because they are just order followers of the occultocracy at this point. But we're going to need them to rebel, because they know how to do that crap. Yeah. They know how to do law enforcement. And the thing is, we're going to need security. In an anarchist society, we're going to need to have, because we don't believe in no rules. We believe in no rulers. And if your community it comes together voluntarily, you're going to need to have some kind of security force. So we need those people, and we need
the people who have like a natural inclination to protect and serve, which is supposed to be what they're there for, but it gets corrupted and co-opted. But yeah, like, because it's funny that you say it, because like we were both working for Adam, and what does Adam come from? A military background. In the invasion of Iraq, so all the things that we were against, he was part of that. And it was because he was part of that he realized, holy shit, this shit is evil. This is wrong. I'm not doing this anymore.
Well, do you think that because he was a part of the military, which the evil doings over there are, I mean, I can't compare them, but I'm going to compare them as in they're much more brutal.
Yeah.
And
much more arbitrary, I would say too. Like, I think over here it's like, you pull somebody over for something, and everything is assumed that like we're all American citizens, and maybe this person's just, they got a busted tail light, or they sped for whatever reason, but the assumption isn't, okay, they don't look the same as me, therefore they must be trying to kill me.
Enemy. Yeah.
Like, because that's, I think, some of that stuff, and that's why we end up, if you notice, we don't really go fight wars with like Europeans where we might not be able to tell the difference between ourselves and the people we're fighting against. We're always going and fighting some, we're either in Vietnam or Korea, or, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, that's not a white guy. He might be the enemy. You know what I mean? Like, it makes it a lot more simple. Whereas here on home soil, I think while the general atmosphere might be different, I think like what Adam House talked about when he came on 2 years ago, some of those guys come back from military occupation overseas, come into law enforcement because that's the only place that they really fit in. And a lot of that, like, high alert, always high alert, this person must be trying to kill me kind of stuff, all that PTSD and all that shit comes back with them.
And what's fucked up is that I don't see how Americans haven't woke up to the fact that we still have a solid variety and group of people who are veterans that are back home that are treated like shit.
Yeah.
And everybody just washes over it. And it's like, how are you guys going to wash over the people that were sent overseas and somewhere else to defend you and protect you and your rights? So like, it's agitating how like it's not eye-opening. And even back then, like after Vietnam, that's the like most relevant war that I would know of, like a veteran who's on the streets. Like, how are you guys going to overturn and overlook what the government did to those individuals? And they continuously pile up, granted due to the PTSD and everything else that accumulates over it, but that's a red flag right there.
Yeah,
I think a lot of that PTSD comes from the indoctrination that we're all given when we stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance in school and, you know, in kindergarten and preschool and everything, and all the way through. And we're like Tom Woods used to describe, you know, imagine if you went to a school and it was sponsored by Walmart and you had pictures of all the former Walmart CEOs on the walls, and you had a Walmart flag, and you stood up and you sang a song and you said a prayer to praise Walmart for giving you everything that they've given you and all this stuff. And it's like, you know, that it sounds kind of crazy. And then you think about it, it's like, yeah, but that's kind of the same shit that we do.
America.
And so we do that. We indoctrinate everyone through the school system. And then it leads to now, what's the best way that you can protect our freedom? And, you know, we're also indoctrinated with all that, like everybody who's died in a war in the past died to protect your freedom. They didn't die for the banks. They didn't die for the oil companies. They didn't die for the military industrial complex and all these big defense contractors. No, they didn't die for that. They died to protect your freedom. And so
Is that me?
Nope.
Huh?
It's not me.
You froze again.
It's not me.
Bro, I'm not seeing anything on my end, and usually I see it on my end when I'm freezing. That sucks. Where was I?
You were talking about that they weren't going there for, you know, the military
for the military industrial complex, the defense contractors and everything. But what we're all taught as we grow up in this country is everybody who ever fought in a war in an American uniform was fighting for our freedom. The reason why we have freedom is because those people went and fought and maybe died. Right. And we're never told the other side, the underbelly of who's funding this stuff, why it's so important that we go over to these other places and do this stuff, why strategically it's in our national security best interest and all this stuff. So it's very easy for young people, young men especially, to get caught up in this patriotism and wanting to, like, I want to save everybody from tyranny. I want to be a protector of freedom. I want to be a freedom fighter and all this kind of stuff.
They got you right there with the word freedom.
We all wanted to do that. We all wanted to fight for freedom when we were growing up. We all watched war movies and we wanted to be the hero. Like that's a thing they play into that really, really hard. So it's really difficult for me to look at soldiers and to have like disdain for them for falling for this really, really thick propaganda line that we've all been fed our whole lives. And I take that back to the last 2 years. How can you fault all these people who we've been taught from the very beginning that, like, all these doctors, they're the smartest people in the world. They know everything and you're stupid. And how could you possibly trust yourself and your own body? Go to the doctor, let them check. Oh, you got the sniffles? Let them stick a bunch of, medication in a bag and send you home with it. This is the kind of stuff that we are indoctrinated with. And so I have a lot of sympathy for people who fell for it, right? Because it was a pretty thick propaganda campaign there too. What is really interesting to me is, what is it about the rest of us that helps us to see through the military industrial complex and all that propaganda, and that helps us see through the medical industrial complex and all that propaganda? And how do we help other people to unlock those doors for themselves?
Well, sure. The thing is, it's difficult to try and have a starving horse drink water when you brought the water to the horse, Mm-hmm. Like, at the end of the day, it's based and derived upon experiences and the things that you're willing to go through or accept. Because at the end of the day, not everybody, there's a large majority of people who are in a mass, thought process of straight denial.
Yeah. Mass formation,
psychosis or something like, not psychosis, but like hypnotic, state.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many things that play into how people are still stuck on this train when there's so many flashing alerts. Mm-hmm. And it's really based on if an individual wants to grow past this life. What's something that we all have in common? That God. When you believe in God, when you understand, actually witnessing some of the things that my granny has done, all based off of prayer, or not just physically, but witnessing from what she's done off of prayer. And it's the Bible. She's a Seventh-day Adventist. It's not something I personally believe, but the power that she's derived from it and the healing and the direction and all the prosperity that she has continued to bless us with is all based via off God. We have a very, very strong connection to God, and we believe that God's going to fix this. Not everybody's going to be like, some people's God is the scientist.
Yeah.
A scientist, a doctor. I'm not going to, disregard what the doctor said. I got to take 12 of these pills. Then I got an AM set and I got a PM set. Guess what? 24 pills down the hatch. Like, nah.
Right.
Like,
this one's to offset the side effects of that one. That one's to offset the side effects of that one. And
then now I got to go to the doctor because this Pepto-Bismol not working no more. And it's like, it's because the belief in the medical system was heavily established and ingrained. Like, what's one of the top 5 things that your parents tell you to be? Doctor, lawyer. Oh, wait, doctor's number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. And lawyers usually become politicians.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Like, and then everybody wanted to be president too when they were a kid. It's like
your parents. There's not a lot of
tell everybody what to do. I would do it right.
Right.
There's not a lot of parents that tell their kids to shoot for presidency. Now, I mean, it is what
it is.
No,
but it just comes naturally. Like everybody's just like, I want to be president.
Right.
Or they tell you like, this kid's so smart, he could be president one day. That's like a compliment or some shit.
Have you seen George W. Bush? Oh,
don't forget this drive.
So the piece that is missing, though I agree with you, Nicco, that a lot of that, and it's why they try to stifle religion, is because it's competing with their religion, which is statism. But the thing that they're missing beyond that is informed consent. Whether we're talking about joining the military or we're talking about medicine, the piece that they've managed to destroy with secrecy is informed consent. You cannot make an informed judgment right now on any of these topics because they have hidden. Who knows what's going on with the vaccine? I do not think that I know. I do not know.
Do you know that informed consent is not required under EUA, under a state of emergency? No, I mean, it's like in the law. It's when there's a state of emergency. That's why Biden keeps extending the state of emergency.
Of course.
And that's why it's all under emergency use authorization, is because as long as it's under that, the informed consent thing is just like, no, look, it was an emergency. We made some stuff available. We told everybody that it was a good idea to get it, but our hands are washed clean of any liability of this stuff because
everybody signed a contract.
You can't come after us.
Yeah. And the thing is, I know how this works. In all of this stuff, you can trace it down. All of the stuff from the indoctrination into the military to the jab and the past year, all of this is magical initiatory process. I've been initiated into a couple fraternal orders, magical fraternal orders, and you don't know what's going to happen. You're terrified because you don't know what's going to happen, and these are magical fraternities. This scares the shit out of when you're walking in, and so these processes, they already know and have known for thousands of years that they work. One of the groups that I studied was a group called the Hassasim, which is a group of assassins that were Islamic assassins. And what they did with, I know.
Marcus, I'm going to write a book about Marcus one day. I'm going to sit down and just interview. It's going to be.
Yeah, no, you got to do it soon, though.
Interview with a voodoo grandpire.
Grandpire,
because he's a grandfather anyway.
Yeah. But with the Hassasim, what they did, and if one of these days we'll have to talk about it at length. But long story short, when Salah ad-Din was taking over, which was during the Crusades, he was the Muslims that just kicked the shit out of the Christians. I mean, they kicked the shit out of them. If you ever saw, what was it? I don't remember. There was a thing about there was a movie. I can't remember the name of it.
Kingdom of God.
Kingdom of God. Yeah. If that has Salah ad-Din in it. After that happened, after they retained Jerusalem, they went after this group called the Hasasim. And the leader of the group was called the Old Man on the Mountain. Long story short, what they did was the Hasasim managed so Salah ad-Din was coming towards these people and he was going to take them over. And when he got there, and he was about to conquer, the Old Man on the Mountain comes out and he's like, hey, we don't want to be jiggy. We're cool. We're Muslims. Come on in. Let's hang out. So Salah ad-Din does. And so he brings him into, the Old Man on the Mountain's.
I thought you were going to say, and then Will Smith slapped him anyway. He didn't care if he wanted to be jiggy or not.
Right.
Anyway.
So anyway, he comes in and they go to the throne room and Salah ad-Din said he'll meet with him and he can have his 2 top advisors to protect him, but he wants to have a private conversation so they can work out the details. And so the Old Man on the Mountain brings him into his throne room and Salah ad-Din says, and he's the only one there that is armed. And the 2 guards are standing beside the Old Man on the Mountain. And so Salah ad-Din says, okay, now what I would like you to do to surrender is this, and this, and you're going to help us to do this, this. And the Old Man on the Mountain looks at him and says, oh, you've misunderstood. You're surrendering to me. And Salah ad-Din was like, what? And he was like, yeah, you're surrendering to me. And so I take it back. It was Salah ad-Din that had the 2 bodyguards, and the Old Man on the Mountain was by himself. And so, so what winds up happening is 2 daggers go on Salah ad-Din's throat because the 2 most trusted advisors he had were working for the Old Man on the Mountain.
Wow.
And that's what these people do. And just so you know, that group still exists today. And so these are the kinds of things that have been happening for centuries and have been infiltrating into governments all over the place because that's where these people want to be. If you give people absolute power, then corrupt individuals are going to try to get there. We don't care about having absolute power, so we're not seeking that out.
I just want my 40 acres and a mule.
Same.
So it's as good a moment as any. I thought about this show tonight when I was reading this morning, and I did my little video, but it's only it's less than a third of what this meditation is every morning. But I was just struck by this, and so if you don't mind, would you mind if I read this?
Nicco wanted to say something before you do.
Oh yeah, go ahead, man.
Oh,
My
no,
bad.
no.
I was looking down.
I was going to ask, I know I've been super back on your videos and meditations, but are you going to make a long video of it, or?
I guess I can. Yeah, I guess I should probably do that. String them all together. Yeah, it'll be interesting to put them all together. It's going to be 365 of them, or 366 or whatever.
And you know what?
Was it a leap year? No, it wasn't a leap year.
Is that it's like a time capsule. So you make it now, and then 5 years from now, you'd be like, "Holy shit! I think of it like this. Now I think of it like that."
Right. So spoiler alert: I'm not doing this again. I'm probably going to continue doing some sort of video series, but it's going to be different. I think I might start reading the lives of the saints in the morning speaking about reading the lives of the saints, because there are different saints that are commemorated each day throughout the year. And anyway, this has been a lot, and I don't know that it would be really. I guess it could be useful, but I'm going to probably be saying and repeating a lot of the same stuff again if I go through it again the same way. So I'm probably not going to do that. I might still read the thing every night or whatever, but I'm not going to do a video on it. But yeah, that's a good idea. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess we'll talk about it later, where I would post that and how I'd go about it. Let me see. So 350 times 350 times 2.5 is 800 and something.
That's really long.
875 minutes. That's a really long video. It's an extremely long video, but I mean, I could
Chad,
still
you
do
have a
it.
soothing voice. You have a narrating voice. Somebody will sit down and listen
You
to Chad
can
talk
watch
about
it at
morning meditations.
You can watch
Turn
it
it
at
into an
3x
audiobook.
speed. Watch it at 3x speed, and then it won't take quite as
we
long.
don't need Alvin the Chipmunks reading us this stuff.
No, well, it's not. So if you use it on one of these native app-based versions of the accelerator, it doesn't actually change the pitch. It just changes the speed. So like when you watch in YouTube sped up, I love that it doesn't change the pitch, because it would be really stupid, and I would listen to everything in regular
Netflix?
speed.
You can do that with Netflix as well.
Yeah, Netflix too. Yeah.
Cool.
There's a lot of those things you can do that. All right, so here we go. Are you ready?
Yeah.
So we've been going through like the virtue of prudence for the last couple of days, and today it was prudence and rectitude. So like prudence and like righteousness, or like correct judgment. Teach me, oh my God, the prudence which leads to you by the straight path of duty and truth. Prudence is not limited to suggesting good works to be done in order to attain sanctity, but it remains with us while we do these works and enlightens us as to the best conduct to observe therein, according to the circumstances of the moment. For example, prudence tells us when to speak and when to be silent, when to act and when to wait, when to yield and when to resist, when and how to practice this or that virtue. Thus, prudence is the great regulator of our whole life. It has been well termed, this is some Latin, auriga virtutum, as it directs the exercise of all the other virtues. So it doesn't say what the definition of auriga virtutum is, but anyway, so I don't know. I'll have to go look that up. Prudence regulates the moral virtues that we may always observe a golden mean in our conduct by avoiding culpable excess in either direction, too much assurance or over timidity, excessive activity or passivity, seeking our ease or performing penances which ruin our health. So this is again getting back to like finding that royal path down the middle, not too far to the right, not too far to the left, but and not the mushy middle. Look at Jay. Mm-hmm. Jay says, I've seen movies. We know, Jay. Thank you for joining us for the Occultocracy episode here. Jay is very much into, like, he's dug into a lot of that stuff. Jay and Marcus doing a show together would be probably too much for the senses to take in.
No, we just do that on a whole different website. We just have our own. Just have your own website. Don't play with them.
We need to have Jay. We need to have Jay on one day.
Sure.
We need to do that. Set that up coming up here soon. On the other hand, in the case of the theological virtues, for which there is no question of a golden mean, it is the task of prudence to direct us as to when and what way they are to be practiced. Thus, for example, prudence will point out the dangers that threaten our faith and the way to avoid them. It will show us how we can have complete confidence in God without fear of being presumptuous. It will teach us how to love God with all our heart without prejudice to fraternal charity, or the fulfillment of our duties. So like sometimes we can have this like this dilemma in our head that's maybe a false dilemma, maybe it's real, of like devotion to God, but then like, well, so do I keep praying, or my son just ran in and he's bleeding? Well, obviously I stop praying and I take care of my son, right? Yeah. And so there's finding that, but then it's, I'm praying, but I got a notification. Do I check and see who texted me? You know what I mean? Like there's no, we turn the notifications off, because if it's really, really important, the people who really need to get in touch with you know how to get in touch with you without having to set off the ringer on your phone.
They'll have God come talk to you real quick.
Right. So let's see. So where is it? How to love God with all our heart without prejudice. Okay. So finally, it will tell us how to practice fraternal charity with great devotedness, avoiding any harmful imprudences. We can truly say, therefore, that prudence is extremely useful and necessary in all things. It is the salt that ought to season all our acts. A soul detached from itself, centered on God alone, a recollected soul that does not let itself be distracted by the noise of the world, will easily and almost spontaneously follow the path of supernatural prudence, and by so doing will reach God by the straight path without deviations or loss of time. True, perfect prudence counsels, judges, and commands with rectitude, having in view the final end of the whole life. And so this is where I started to see like, oh, this is in direct contrast to what this episode is about. Because our judgment and where we are trying to aim ourselves is at this supernatural prudence, this understanding of like, we have a goal, and our goal is union with God and love and peace and harmony. And these other folks have chosen to serve the prince of this world. And the prince of this world seeks death, destruction, chaos, all these things. And it's funny because even when you look at the imagery on the screen, and like, these are images that I've had to try to explain to like family members who like be like, what is all that weird stuff? Why do y'all have snakes at the beginning of the show and all this other stuff? And I'm like, all right, so chill. This doesn't mean I'm a devil worshiper or whatever it is that you think it is going to mean. But it's funny because it's like there's so much of this stuff that we are led through fear, I guess. Oh, thank you, Carmen. But we're led by fear, I think, a lot of times, and that's another one of the things that's great about this book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, is this one little line that's like a gem. Will you be guided by faith, or will you allow fear to overtake you? And that's kind of the dichotomy, the true dichotomy that we're faced with, right? Is if you're governed by fear, that sometimes that can manifest itself as fear of losing what you have, fear of not achieving what you want to achieve, fear of not looking good in other people's eyes, all these things that are in large part materialistic. They are again of this world and not of the supernatural.
Basically, it don't matter.
What's that?
Basically, it don't matter. Stuff
Right,
that
right.
matters, but doesn't really matter in the longer run.
Yeah. So when you get caught up serving the material world at the expense of everything else, then naturally you're going to end up in, and that's the manifestations that we see in so much of this other stuff is this very evil, destructive, because what it is it's that it goes back to that. Remember the parable of Solomon, or maybe it's not a parable anyway, but the story of Solomon and the women who were fighting over the baby.
I don't remember that.
And he says, cut the baby in half. And the one lady's like, that's fine, cut it in half. And the other one's like, no, give it to her. Let her have the baby. And he's like, you get the baby.
Right. We have found who needs to get the baby.
The one who doesn't want to kill the baby and split it in half gets the baby. But when you're thinking of it in those terms of like, I would rather neither of us get to have this baby alive than to let you have it.
Yeah.
Then that's where we've lost it. And that's where like we back to this stuff we were talking about before with people who were wishing death and injury and saying we're not going to give you any care if you come to the hospital if you didn't get these shots, it's on you, you're stupid, all this other kind of stuff. And it's like, and I have to catch myself, and I have to catch other people when I hear them start to say it, like, well, that's what you get for getting those shots. It's like, no, listen, we talked about this, like the propaganda campaign was one of the most epic that the world has ever seen. It was really, really hard to resist.
Sure.
It still is. Like it continues to be difficult to resist. So let us not find that hardness of heart in ourselves.
Sure. And just to put that into perspective, I'm looking for a job. My day job is gone right now. I'm looking for a job. About every fourth job that I apply for, I can't take because I'm not vaccinated. About every fourth one at this point.
Right.
And so
2.5 years after the magic virus took the world by storm.
Do you think that it's going to, after this hoo-ha starts to really catch flame, that jobs are going to start to dial back on it? Or
I don't know.
It just
I think that I don't know, and they may leave them in place. And the reason is because none of this was about curing people or helping people. The purpose of all of it was to see who follows orders. And again, these are people that have agendas that are behind the scenes. What we are seeing is only a piece of what the reality of what their plans are. So again, I don't know, and I don't claim to know about all of the stuff. I just don't. What I do know is that I agree with a lot of the good magicians, if you will, that said that what we are facing is what they called the Black Brotherhood. And the difference between, say, Madame Blavatsky, who existed basically 100 years ago or so, is that these are people that their entire purpose is to disconnect people from their spirituality. That's what they're trying to do. And so we have to watch what we're doing, because I don't believe just because you went out and got one of these stupid jabs that you have disconnected from your spirituality. There is a path for you back to goodness.
Integration, reintegration of sorts. Yep, I agree.
Right. And so we cannot become what we hate. We cannot become the evil that we are opposing. We have to be better than them. And it's hard. It is very hard, especially when you're looking at the symbol sets they're using. There's Woodrow Wilson, when he was president, couched everything that he did, and he did some evil, heinous stuff. He couched it in the language of the Bible.
Yep.
And so we have to be very careful that we are not becoming what we hate. And so how we have to do that is the teachings of goodness, whether you're talking Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, or any number of spiritual leaders, is we have to teach love. We have to teach acceptance. We have to, and we can disagree. At the end of the day, if somebody got the jab, I'm not going to trust them as much as I do somebody who did not. That's a fact. And I don't think that I should. They showed that they are willing to capitulate for whatever reason. And so
there's
need to be aware.
There's a space for some understanding, like, okay, if they really came to, they're like, wow, that was really, because I've done some dumb shit in my life too. And I think I've become more trustworthy after the fact. So I leave some space for them to regain trust, right?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, again, what we are facing, Konkin talks about that there's a piece of statism in all of us, and we have been fighting this for 10,000 years. And, no, it's not going to fix itself tomorrow. It's not going to happen. Would it be nice if it did? Well, hell yeah. And I have news for these anarchists like myself that don't have the kind of foresight that I have, that say, well, if we would just eliminate the government, everything would be fine tomorrow. That's bullshit. We would be pulling people's
Freedom
safety nets.
Yeah. No. You guys would, granted, Haiti's a different structure, but we'd look like Haiti. Like, if you just basically assassinated the United States, the kind of shit that would be going on left and right and center, because people were stabbing each other over chicken sandwiches. Now, if there's freedom for freedom,
some chicken sandwiches
like,
that weren't
like
even.
Your crib. I like your house. That's a mansion.
Some chicken sandwiches that weren't even that good, and that then, maybe 2 months later, you didn't even have to wait in line for him anymore.
Right.
And the dude's dead. At least one person is dead fighting over the Popeye's chicken sandwich.
A momentary enjoyment.
Sure. So what we have to do is we have to show things in the light. We have to show people that there is ways to do this, and it does not have to take a lifetime. Can we get to freedom in my lifetime? Absolutely. I think that the transition would take around 10 years, and it should be slow. Now, I don't think it's gonna happen. I am not hopeful enough anymore to believe that by the time I'm dead, we're gonna have real freedom. I'm not that hopeful anymore. One time I was. I'm not there anymore. But I do believe that it is possible that my children could see freedom in their lifetime. And I want that to happen. It's going to have to start happening now. And how we do that is by bringing things into the light, by doing things like we do, like various other people do, and showing the world Why do you think they censor us? It isn't because they're afraid of people, having the wrong information. Right. That's not the reason. The reason is because they don't want people to know the truth.
Yeah.
And so
the whatever those robot things are that chase everybody down in the Matrix when they're trying to unplug people.
Right.
I'm talking about the little serpentine spider looking octopus drones.
Right. I think.
I don't know that it had a name.
I don't remember what they were called, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
Right. But at the same time, we also have to remember that they aren't coming at this from one direction.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why there are about 5 or 6 little groups that we know about. And I also want to point out, if you think you know which I've said this before, if you think you know who the king of the occultocracy is, you are wrong. We do not know them. We have no idea what their name is. Anybody that we do know, even Satan Klaus, and this is Satan Klaus, if even Satan Klaus is just a tool. He is nothing more than a front man for
Nicco
evil.
tried to dodge the camera while this graphic was up.
Right.
We still see you, Nicco.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to grab something from the floor and my thing is
you're good.
Hold on, wait.
But
all right, so while he's looking for that, may I continue, or are you still
sure?
You got?
I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
No. So
I
got to a point where this is where it started to turn into this, and it's good that because like you were talking about like that that split, so to speak, right, between the people who are like following God and the people who aren't. So this is where it makes that turn, right? So it says the great difference between supernatural prudence and worldly prudence lies not only in the vast divergence of the ends aimed at, but also in the choice of means to be used. While the latter does not scruple to use illicit means or to follow the tortuous path of falsehood, trickery, or deceit, Christian prudence repudiates immediately any means which, even in the slightest degree, is contrary to God's law, and it follows the path of rectitude. Christian prudence may also suggest that we delay to a more suitable time the execution of a plan, good and holy in itself. It may caution us to refrain from revealing our intentions to everyone or to keep silence about certain things. However, it will never ask us to fail in our duty or to trifle with the truth. And see, that's the thing. We're talking about like deceit, trickery, trifling with the truth versus like sometimes you don't have to like tell everybody everything all the time. Like sometimes it's just like, look, you need to get yourself in shape. There's a way to say that, and there's a time to say that. There's other times where you just kind of hold your tongue and you don't say it. Like we know what this is. So it says when Jesus said that the children of this world are wiser than the children of light, he certainly meant to remind us to be more prudent and circumspect in doing good. But he had no intention of encouraging us to use the illicit means which the children of darkness use so freely. We should not think that our prudence is outdone by the prudence of the world because we make use of honorable means only. In opposing the intrigues and deceptions which we can no wise reciprocate, we have at our disposal a much more powerful means, one which will always be victorious, recourse to God by prayer and sacrifice. And that's the thing that we're missing in a lot of ways in this world is prayer and sacrifice.
For sure.
When Jesus sent his disciples out into the world, which was full of the ambushes of evil, he told them, "Be ye therefore wise as serpents and simple as doves." By mentioning the two virtues, prudence and simplicity, together, he clearly shows that they must never be separated from one another, nor should one be used as a pretext for failing in the other. Prudence should never lack in simplicity, prudence should never lack simplicity, and here is meant the exclusion of all those means based on untruthfulness. That's what simple means, like just like direct, true,
nice,
not trickery or any of that, complexity that's unnecessary. But at the same time, simplicity should never lack prudence. And then it goes into a prayer. It says the one that really hit me was the one from St. Thomas Aquinas, and I read this morning on the thing.
Yeah.
It says, "O Jesus, supreme goodness, I ask you to give me a heart so enamored of you that nothing on earth can distract it, a free heart, never seduced or enslaved, an upright heart which never goes astray." So that was the thing. That's what, when I was reading this, I was like, man, it's really cool that we're talking about the topic we're talking about, because that to me is the direct the contrast is between what we're trying to do, which is we are seeking God, we're seeking truth, we're seeking the light, we're seeking love, and we are talking about and we're comparing that to this deceitful, trickery laden, very corrupt and hidden and purposefully untruthful and deceitful and like, I don't know, in the shadows sort of.
It's hidden in plain sight. It's hidden in plain sight.
For sure.
Yes.
So like
exactly.
it's like if a snake was in the room, it would have bit everybody.
Yeah.
And it's because of the lack of, I guess, want to be closer to God and seeing what God has given us and bestowed us and things of that nature, and not really wanting to delve deeper into certain topics. Once you like go to church, you give yourself a pat on the back, and then you do your prayers over every meal and things like that. Like that's what people are content with, opposed to really figuring out, okay, well, if this is God, what more do you have to put on this earth for me to learn?
Mm-hmm.
Although I agree with you, Nicco, that I would like to see more people try to get a deeper relationship with God. At this point, I'd be happy if people were just doing their prayers over their dinner and doing their stuff. I'd be good with that, because then at least
just sitting together at dinner as a family would be a step in the right direction.
Correct. And that's one of the, if people don't do that, do that. It's a tradition in my family that every day, barring, we've got to go out shopping or something like that, but just about every night we sit down around the dinner table and have dinner. We also pray. But one of the things I also think that it's important for people to understand is where a lot of this shit comes from. And the modern emanations of the occultocracy come from a pervertation of, I talked about Blavatsky earlier, and she talked about that there were a bunch of root races that she believed started all of humanity, and there wasn't a whole lot more that she got really into about that. She believed in Atlantis. She believed in all kinds of craziness. Well, there was a group in Germany called the Thule Society, and most people have lost the Thule Society from their consciousness. And these were people that took those teachings that Blavatsky talked about and perverted them to where, and what eventually they became was the Nazis. Now, there are lots of people will criticize us and say, oh, you're just talking about Nazis. No, I'm not just talking about Nazis. The Nazis were just an emanation of statism in a particular direction. And you can make an argument that Stalin was worse or that Mao was worse because they killed more people. And I agree, they were worse if you're talking about body counts. But when you're talking about the perversion of truth, ain't nobody topped the Thule Society.
That's a good point.
Right.
That's a point that's not very often made, that everybody does typically go to body count and like numbers. And that's interesting. Like what Cyprian said when he came on about Ted Bundy and like how he used virtue as the way that he attracted the women into vulnerability. They gave themselves willingly to his attack because he was appealing to their virtue. And twisting the truth is a very, very evil path.
Correct. And I would argue that because most of the people that were in Hitler's inner circle were members of the Thule Society, because it didn't stop existing because the Nazis came out. The Nazis were just the public face. What I believe has happened is I believe that what we're seeing, and look it up, the Operation Paperclip, the Project Paperclip, they took Nazi insiders in the scientific community and they brought them over to the United States and put them in charge of our science. So
NASA and like you up and down the line, it's just like all Werner von Braun and
the same society that came up with some of the coldest, not to applaud it, but some of the coldest propaganda, and you don't think it's not going to come over here?
Right, exactly. And especially when they're bringing him.
Actually, this fact that I found out watching Cat Williams' goofy ass, they were meth heads. I didn't really know that. But the thing is like they were like some of the biggest proponents and founders of meth, and it's like
Oh, it traveled over here to America. Okay,
Right.
Alrighty then.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's the thing. We became Nazis. This country
Mm.
really brought in. No, they didn't bring the anti-Semitism. No, they didn't. But that was all nonsense. That isn't. When the Thule Society is using outright Kabbalistic symbolism, which is a Jewish tradition,
Mm-hmm.
they obviously didn't have too much wrong with the Jews.
Well, I
No.
think you probably, if you look at it and look at how, man, I'm gonna be very careful here.
Ooh.
If you look at how certain Orthodox, Hasidic communities look at how some folks who operate at very high levels operate, and they have no love for them because they don't see them at these are not religious faithful people. How should I'm trying to say it as carefully as possible, but you know what I'm saying? Like
I do.
And I think that's very similarly, it's like the having a certain last name, coming from a certain lineage or anything, does not make you any more than a person who grew up Catholic and became an atheist or a Satanist or anything like that, is just by birth, a Catholic for life. And you can say that everything that you say about that person is anti-Catholic, no, there's some people who have twisted some stuff that is very real and true and meant to be pointing in the right direction, that it's that twisting of it. And that's where it starts to blur those lines too, because now you see when you look at the Vatican and then you compare that to like what the original church was, and it's like, man, like you're really you're tiptoeing around some real dangerous territory, because now you've got this. It's like having a garden overgrown with weeds or a body completely taken over by cancer. At a certain level, it's hard to distinguish one from the other.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that there's not still some good, preservable, healthy tissue in there. It's just that it's been overgrown by this other corrupted stuff.
It sounds like every police station that I know.
Ooh, yeah.
For sure. And the thing that I would point to is that this is on purpose. This is not by chance. This is by design. That all of the lawlessness that we're seeing, again, this is evil trying to take root. And the why I say trying to take root, because lots of people will say, oh, it's been in charge forever. And I disagree. Most people are good. Most people are good people. They may be ignorant people, but they're good. They don't want to do crazy nonsense. They want to just, live their life.
Everybody legit want to mind their business except for the people who don't.
Right. The majority of people are good, but what they want is they want that number of people that are not to grow and grow massively. And so they get at you through things that are wrong. It's wrong to steal from folks. That it's wrong to kill folks. That it's wrong to do a bunch of shit. That racism is bad. That all this stuff is bad. So if they can get you to believe that you are not savable, that you cannot be redeemed, that's what the beauty of the Christian doctrine is. It does not matter what you have done in your past. And there are other doctrines, but Christianity really does this well. It does not matter what you've done in the past. If you repent of your sins and go to Jesus, you will be forgiven. That is the end of the story. There is no, I can't come back from this.
Right. And I think that's, the problem that most people have, myself included, is it's kind of wild if you think about it, and that's one of the things that's so great. Again, I have to bring this back up because I've had this book recommended to me for a long time, and I finally got around to reading it. I started yesterday. I'm like 30 pages in. I got a lot of reading to do, but I got a nice little trip on several planes tomorrow and on Friday. So I'm gonna finish it before this weekend. But outwitting the devil, what this is like, this is a conversation between Napoleon Hill and like the inner voices that are self-limiting. And I think so often we, whether it's forgiveness or anything else, achievement, success, making, being creative, doing the things that we know we're capable of doing, so much of it is just overcoming doubt, overcoming our own self-limitations, that we can talk ourselves out of asking God for forgiveness. We can talk ourselves out of going to Christ. I'm not worthy, I'm not, let me not even go. Like, it's okay to say I'm not worthy, but you still go,
Right.
like I'm not worthy. Jesus Christ, please have mercy on me, a sinner. That is a path to opening yourself up to a forgiveness and a freedom that is beautiful and is invigorating, and I don't know, infuses you with a life that I don't know how to describe. But the thing that holds me back from it the most is me.
Factual.
I get in my own way because I'm not ready to forgive myself. I'm not
Right.
I think that, oh no, this is, I fucked up again, and I swore I was never gonna do that again, or whatever the case may be. You're better, and so like your humiliation, and your shame for yourself is what gets in your own way sometimes, and so I think that's where so much of this stuff, and that's why when I talked about this, we talked about heaven, it is it's right there. It's ours. It's open and it's given to us.
For sure.
And it's our choice to not see ourselves as worthy of it and to reject it.
Absolutely.
And to be more attached to our own shame and our own worthlessness than to receive the gifts that are due to us.
And that's not to say that we don't have inner rules and we don't have inner ideas, and we don't, impose particular thoughts and particular rules. I have a very structured belief system. My personal belief system. I'm not allowed to do a bunch of stuff by myself. One of the things that I have from, again, watching Mark Passio in the last few days, who is an anarchist, and he is just as much an anarchist as we are, if not more so. But one of the most profound things that he said is, outward anarchy is freedom, but inward anarchy is chaos. And we have to be the ruler of our own being. We don't. An anarch means that we have no ruler outside of ourselves. We believe that we are in charge of ourselves. We have to take control of ourselves. I'm not trying to be a libertine. I'm not trying to just do whatever the hell I want. No, what I'm trying to do is not be ruled upon and be told by these evil psychopaths what I can do. It is my choice. These are my rule books, and they are the ones that I choose voluntarily to follow.
It's crazy how people voluntarily give so much more authority to somebody else. Like, after a certain point in time, every adult should be able to get to a point where they don't have to be a worker bee all their life.
Sure.
And being that worker bee only puts you in a mindset. I mean, granted, it's also disciplined. So, I mean, you are a disciplined individual, right, Marcus, with your rituals and how often you do them and how often you see.
Every day.
You feel me? So, it's all on perception.
Sure. Yeah, and so I think that what we need to do is to stop allowing them to one, cow us, stop allowing them to put the yoke of slavery on us. Right. We choose, even if you do choose to, for instance, pay taxes, which I encourage people not to pay taxes. But if you choose to pay taxes, You choose to pay taxes. You decide, okay, the reason that I'm paying my taxes is I don't want to go to jail. I can't do it. I don't want them to come and shoot my kids. I don't want, that kind of stuff to happen. So you make that choice and consciously make that choice. And when you're talking about, I made a choice to pay my taxes, say, because I don't want them to come shoot my kids. I don't, I made that choice. Because then at least you can feel as though you are trying to not, and at least recognize that, I'm not there yet. And folks, I try very hard to be very consistent about my political or anti-political views.
Right.
I'm not perfect, and I'm not there yet. I still pay taxes.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
It's hard. It's hard as shit. Like when you're so like, because I have a little bit of smoke for some of these libertarians, anarchists, and everybody else who will throw rocks at people like you and me who are still, excuse me. And I even you and I both watched the Anarchist documentary on HBO Max, and it's that there was some stuff where Lily Forster and John Galton were both talking about how like all these other people are fake anarchists because they're not doing what they're doing. Well, they didn't have kids, like I came to these ideas. I came to this realization when I was in my 30s and 40s, and I already had all three of my kids and my life established, and my wife was not like there yet. Like it's been like a process of like me kind of living this and talking about this stuff at home, and she's kind of come around, and in the last couple of years it's just been like, now it's funny too because she's it's so hilarious. She'll be in like a Telegram group or something like that, and like one of these big people that she follows will like post something that Hotep Jesus posted in the thing. She's like, look at this. And I'm like, yeah, well, hey, look, what can I say? We rolling deep over here, like it's we got a squad. But it's funny because like all these teams are kind of converging together, and we're kind of forming the super friends or something. But it's there have been some people who have been really critical in that regard, and I've taken it as, I go back to one of the things again that came from this book, which is like whenever I feel like offended by something like that, somebody calling me like not an anarchist or whatever, instead of me like lashing out and defending myself, I think, oh, okay, how have I done that to somebody else? How have I been like too purist and not been inviting and like, hey, look, come in here, check out what we got in here. Like this place is awesome. Because a lot of times because we're so, or we think we're so smart, like, I mean, look, libertarians, I think we rank pretty high on the IQ charts. Like I think the whole group of, whether it's Hoteps, the red pilled, white pilled generation, like the whole group is up there on the IQ spectrum. Right. So sometimes we can get a little full of ourselves, and it can be very easy to be like, no, dumbass, like that's not how this works. You know what I mean? And to really just like, and how many times has someone talking to you like that sold you whatever they were trying to sell you?
Right.
0% of the time.
Yeah.
For me.
And yeah, exactly. And I have to say, in the spirit of that, if somebody being a purist gets us to freedom, I'm about it. For me,
right.
I am all about it.
Yeah, I appreciate the purism on a certain level, but I think we could do with a little more of the carrot and less stick. Because why are we trying to beat people who are trying to learn about us with a stick?
Right.
Well, it's better evaluation and awareness that needs to be developed on all spectrums of thought processing. Thought processing. Go ahead.
No, you're right.
No, for sure. Yeah, and it kind of comes back to again what Rothbard talked about, that we have a direction. We are going towards absolute freedom. And that is my rhetoric. That is what I say. That is what I am shooting for. But I am pragmatic. If I can get to the Constitution, if we can get there, I'm on board because it's a hell of a lot better than where we're at now.
Right.
So
Yeah.
aim at purity. Absolutely, do that. Take every step that you can that's in the direction of freedom. Deny if like, for instance, if they, and this is again Rothbard, but if they say, well, we're going to eliminate property taxes completely, but we're going to raise sales tax by 1%. No, that's a no, because you do not raise taxes. None. That is not in my direction. Deny anything that does not move you in the direction of freedom.
Reminds me of the Herman Cain 999 plan. I was like, whoa, hold the fuck up. This motherfucker's talking about a 9% national sales tax, and this is what y'all want? Like, right. He's just like, y'all don't even see how the jokes. Like, this is
right.
It's a whole new tax.
Right.
They open up a whole new spigot on the back of your wallet.
Right. Well, and what that was, to be blunt, what that was a misunderstanding and trying to reach out to the fair tax people.
Yeah.
And it was a misunderstanding of the fair tax. Fair tax eliminates the IRS. Right. And I agree with Ron Paul. Fair tax is not the plan. No tax is the plan. Yeah. But if I were in Congress and the fair tax came across, this is Ron Paul, and the fair tax came across my desk, I'd sign it. And the reason, and I would too, and I'll never be there, but I would too, because it's better than what we have. But again, eliminates the IRS, and Herman Cain's plan did not.
Right. What we get from, so like imagine, all right, let me try to make this a metaphor that everyone will understand. Okay, so all right, I'm just gonna go sports anyway. Marcus, try to keep up. So it's the NFL, right? And we're trying to develop like the all-star team. We want the best player in the NFL, except that we can only pick players from the Steelers. That's how the political system is. It's like, okay, all right, here's what we'll do. We'll open it up to, you can pick somebody from the Steelers or the Ravens. Like, well, wait, so it's all AFC North teams? Like, we don't get to, there's all these other teams. Like, Tom Brady's not even in the conversation. Yeah. Like, he's arguably the best football player of all time if you just look at rings and, like, overall achievement and everything.
Yeah,
but, even though he's not that good of an athlete, like, he's for his position. Anyways,
look, his wife is a witch.
Yes. Well, his is.
And then you fly.
And Aaron Rodgers' wife is like a witch too, apparently.
Oh, what a coinkydink!
Yeah, I know, right?
But she don't got the sauce. She don't got the sauce.
But see, here's the thing. Like we were talking about this in the Bitcoin Mystery School chat. Like, he's kind of like this, again, a materialistic. Like, his stuff is not based on God or any of that kind of stuff. It's this very materialistic. Be careful, because a lot of this stuff is traps. A lot of this stuff is left-hand path, right-hand path, but it's just like, well, because left-hand path is being such a fuck nugget right now, let's go right-hand path. Or because right-hand path is being so totalitarian, let's go left-hand path. It's like, no. The path down the middle, and not the mushy middle, not the we're a little bit communist and a little bit authoritarian, and we're a little bit anarchist. We're a little bit anarchist and a little bit. And it's like, no. Like you're, and I'm by anarchist, I mean like the all the bad names that they use to just, or all the bad descriptions of anarchy that they use. No, this is like left. Do we want who do we want? Do we want Kamala Harris? No, Bernie Sanders. That's it. Bernie Sanders and Ron DeSantis. It's like a combination of those two. Like, no. I guarantee you we're going to get the worst of all of those things. Yeah. And so it's finding that way to choose, like, no, that we want the transcendental. We don't want the material world. We want the thing that is so pure and so true that it transcends all that stuff.
For sure. Well, it's funny because, when you were reading earlier, and I think it was Jesus that was talking about the dove and the serpents, that is a direct Kabbalistic magical symbol. And because Crowley would say, and this is from the Book of the Law, he said, there is the dove and there is the serpent, choose ye well. And what he's talking about is the serpent path is kind of the going back and forth, like you were just talking about. It's let's balance by going this way and this way and this way.
The pendulum,
right. And that's not the way. That's not how you get there. How you get there is straight up the middle. It's called the dove path, and it is focusing absolutely, and it isn't being good or evil. It isn't between. It is its own path. It is the path of mildness. It is the path of fixing your eyes on God and rising your consciousness to Him regardless. And that is a different thing than trying to be knowledgeable one day and loving the next day, trying to be strong one day and merciful the next day. No, it is about fixating your eyes on God, never wavering from that. And it is hard. Jesus himself says it is like trying to thread a needle. It is very, very hard. We will not be able to do this easily. It is meant to be hard, but it is also the simplest thing in the world because all you have to do is focus your eyes on God. That's it.
And the only way that you can focus your eyes on God appropriately is through prayer and sacrifice, through prayer and repentance. And that's the thing. Like it's funny because I told you I went back and watched this. What we talked about a week ago today. When I was driving out to Texas, or was it Monday? I don't remember what day it was.
It was Tuesday.
Yeah, I thought it was. But I went back and watched our interview with Cyprian Van Armani, and I was kicking myself because I realized now like some things where I completely missed the point, missed the opportunity to dig deeper into something that could have gotten way more profound and spiritual. But at the same time, like we were where we were. I was where I was, and spiritually speaking, in God's time, things happened the way they needed to happen, and in the timing that they needed to happen. But what I kind of realized was that as I'm going through and I'm listening to that episode again, and we're talking about this, I don't know, the royal path, the path of the dove, that finding the best way forward, and prayer and repentance, I realized how off I was in what I was aiming for. Like my ends were in this world were materialistic.
Sure.
I was using, or I was planning to use, or I had it in my head that we could somehow use God and prayer and all this other stuff as a means to win some earthly battle against flesh and blood. And I have now come to realize that like we are almost certainly going to lose the battle against flesh and blood. And the only thing that we can, right. But part of the point is that we don't lose the other battle that's way more important, the battle for our souls in the process, because that's what happens is that you have a lot of people who are selling their souls for this material world.
Right. And the thing is, this is all laid out. I would advise people to go back and read Revelations. I would advise them to read Daniel. When you go into that gets shitty. Until Jesus comes back, it's not pleasant.
There's a lot of people who die and who suffer and die horrible deaths, and they are elevated in the supernatural plane, but not on this earthly plane. Yep. And now in some cases they are, because even Christ, comes back to, from the dead here, but it's the victory is that's a manifestation of the spiritual victory over sin and death.
Sure. Well, the ultimate idea is that, and this goes to Gnosticism, and the world, which they called Sophia, is God sent a little piece of himself. And several months ago, I sent you guys something called the Hymn to the Pearl, which is an excellent Gnostic like story that embodies this. Basically, that God separates what in Hebrew they call the Shekinah, or the which is the world. It is considered Sophia Pistis, or the little world, and that world is this world. And eventually, in Gnostic doctrine, what is going to happen is that world is going to come back into the fold. It's going to come back into the Godhead. When this experiment that God had with, and it's not that God needed to know something, God was just exploring being God, is the whole idea. Is God's like, hey, it'd be kind of cool if I had a body. All right, cool, I have a body. And so the idea is that God says, okay, I'm kind of bored with that, let's pull it back. And that day is going to come, and I'm ready for me to be judged. And that's right, it's hard. Are you ready to be judged? I don't know I'll be judged correctly. To be clear, I'm not sure that I'm on past muster.
Or favorably, anyway. Yeah.
Right.
I'm certain God will judge us all correctly.
Right.
But I know what you meant.
Yeah. But you have to be prepared. That day could come at any moment. In Hinduism, the point of all of what they do, and particularly left hand, and it's different. What most people say, left hand, right hand is different in Hinduism. Left hand path is just the acceptance that all thing is God, as opposed to reducing everything to inside is God, which is the right hand path. But for a long story short, in left hand Hinduism, they focus all of their energy on Kali, which is their big god, if you will, and they focus every single thing. And what they want is, when they die, for Kali to be on their mind. That's what they want. And if they make everything Kali, well, then God's going to be on my mind if everything's Kali when I die. So that's what they do. The
mosquito that just bit me right before I died, that was God.
Kali.
Was God. Right. So I was thinking about God. Hey, I win.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's a good cheat code, man.
Right. For sure. I love it. But the point that I'm trying to make is that at any moment could be that moment. We do not know when we're going to die. Tomorrow Putin could get jiggy and we could all three be toast. We don't know what tomorrow brings, but what we do know is what we're trying to do right now. Try to do the right thing every moment. You will fail. Try. I fail all the time, but I try very, very hard. One of the things that I have come to say when like, particularly when dealing with family, that sometimes can be kind of difficult, is show up and try. That is what you need to do. My dad's a dick, and he does a bunch of stupid shit I don't agree with. He's racist and he's a fuck turd. So my dad and I don't get along, right? For Father's Day, I invited him to my house because we had a big party, and he was a fuck turd at Father's Day. But you know what? I showed up and I tried. I did the right thing. And to his defense, he showed up. I don't know so much about trying, but he showed up. But that's what we have to do. We have to show up and try. And if we're doing that, God knows your heart. This is all, people try to make this shit so complicated. All you really need is the Sermon on the Mount. That's it. That's all you need. Read that shit over and over again. Just try. Just do your best. God knows what's in your heart.
I have to interject. We don't try, we do. We are doing. Words are spells. Speak it into existence. And everybody just needs to be more aware. We need to start changing our language. The cultics is right in front of you. As soon as you change your language, you change your thought patterns. So don't sleep on yourselves. So we are doing nothing but the best and going forward and doing every action, because when you do things in the future, you did it already. So we don't try, we do. That's all I got.
Let me translate that for Jay, because I know he's a movie buff. Try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah, for sure. Well, gents, this has been a good one, and I really enjoy this conversation. I don't know what we added to the conversation about the occultocracy, but if we sparked people to begin looking into the hidden groups that are absolutely trying, spiritually waging war on your children,
Mm-hmm.
those people are in the shadows. Stand up to them. Shine. All you got to do is turn a flashlight on,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. Turn a light on them. Start looking into what they do. Assume, like Nicco said, we are going to win. This is going to be, and like Chad said, it may not be here.
Right. Yeah, I am by no means suggesting when I say that we will win that we are going to have like a multi-million-dollar mansion here on Earth and be free and everybody's going to be just like chilling and having family reunions all weekend every weekend and all week every week. But in heaven, it's kind of like that. I think.
One of the things that I find funny is you can tell we're supposed to be creating a heaven on earth. Do people really think there's a state in heaven?
Right. Like, I mean, seriously, it's like the worst shit that you could ever come up with.
I mean, wouldn't God be a dictator?
No, God.
No, he's not a dictator. No, you're right.
No, in fact, he's quite the opposite. Right. He is, and that's what's so crazy about this. And that's one of the things that I feel bad. I feel bad for atheists too, because I feel like they've been sold a bag of goods by faithful people of all different religions who have somehow convinced atheists that God is a dictator and that God is an authoritarian who wants to like get you in trouble and then throw you in fire forever for being in trouble because you're bad, and he just found ways to trick you and make you do bad shit so that you would get thrown in the fire and he could laugh at you or some, I don't know what, it's like this weird thing. No, what God did was he was like, I really, really want, and love is so much better when it's shared, and it cannot be diminished by giving it away. It actually multiplies when you give it away. And go to like the loaves and the fish, like that's a perfect physical manifestation of God's love. That like he gives away all this bread and fish from a very small amount of bread and fish, and it feeds everyone. And then there's still a bunch left over that they fill up bushel baskets full of it. Like that's what love is. And I want to, before we, because I know we're getting ready to close up. Before we do, I wrote something down a while back, and I think everybody, we kind of went around the horn a few times, and the conversation kind of shifted. But you were talking about like the inner person and like trying to find, looking at the world around you, and then like trying to find that God within you, and like that inner peace and everything. I'm going to bring back that Kanye verse from a couple of weeks ago. The devil runs the playground, but God owns the building. That's like, it's like twofold, or it's become that way for me. So there's the big version of that, which is the devil runs the playground. The prince of this world runs the playground, but God owns the building, the universe that this is all contained in. But then I also take it to a smaller, so the building is smaller than the playground. So like the devil runs the playground, but God owns the building. God owns this temple. Like this is the, and so in a sense, it's like God created all this stuff, created us. And so to Nicco's point, God could be a dictator. He could be like, look, I made you, punk. I'll take you out of this world too. I brought you in, I'll take you out. But it's his love that creates us in the first place and that maintains our existence and keeps us alive, keeps us moving. Because at any moment, if he withdraws his power in us, we fall dead. And he could have us cease to exist. So it's by his love and his mercy that we are even here to begin with. But it's also, that's not like this, something where it's like we are at the whim of some, weird authoritarian tyrant like a toddler playing with toys that he's just going to stomp on the tower and destroy it whenever he wants to. It is a manifestation and a testament to his love for us that he keeps us in this place and continues to pick us up when we fall and continues to welcome us back into his arms when we fail him. And that he continues to pour his love and mercy into us even when we betray him. And so in that sense, I think that when we talk about this victory that we're going to have, it's really important to remember that our faith and trust in that is not lost, because when you look at the saints, you look at the martyrs throughout history, they are pushed to the point where no mere mortal could possibly withstand what they withstand and not lose themselves and not renounce everything that they believe in. And it's only through that prayer and sacrifice and repentance and ordering their lives in such a way before that moment that prepared them to be able to endure that. And in a lot of cases, you know, their victory is only in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Because their physical being ends in a horrible, torturous death.
Yeah.
But they never renounced God. And that's the victory.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we need to be prepared for. And we need to be very, very careful too, that we don't lose sight of the fact that we are tested with little opportunities to renounce God every step along the way.
For sure.
And sometimes we do, and we have to recognize that. And that's where we have to say, like, okay, look, I fucked up. Like I said you were the most important thing in the world to me, but for this moment, I said, no, getting to Starbucks 5 minutes earlier was more important. And so I cut that motherfucker off. I flipped him the bird. I cussed him out. I did all, you know what I mean? I did all this other stuff. And in the grand scheme of things, it's like, so when you think about it, like, we will do those kinds of things. I'll drop the GD sometimes, you know, and I'll be like, I drop my keys between my seat and my console in my car. And like, God, you know, and then I'm like, wow. So like, that's what it takes. I have to be tortured to that extreme before I give it up. I give it all up for my keys falling between my seat and the console. My wife gives me a hard time about this all the time. She's like, I don't understand. Like, you're cussing at the TV because the Cubs gave up a run or something like that. And like you know, and it's like, dang, man, like that shit hits. I really need to do a better job of being more, you know, being more mindful of that, and not, because the closer we get, I've made this metaphor before. I don't know if I've ever told this to y'all, but like, imagine you have like this white tile floor and it's covered in mud. All right. That's how, when we are like really, really broken and really distant from God, that's how our soul is. And it's not until we start cleaning it up and we get all that mud off the floor, and like, then we start to be able to see, like, oh, there's a little spot that we missed over here. Oh, there's a little spot over here that we missed. Oh, now there's a speck that I missed. Mm-hmm. Now there's a microscopic speck of a speck that I missed. The more we continue to align ourselves with God's will, the more we become sensitive to the smallest deviation from it. But when we're in that libertine type of mentality, like you were talking about, where it's just like, doesn't matter. There are no rules. There's no plan. There's no structure. There's no purpose for any of this stuff. It's all just do whatever you want and whatever makes you happy in the moment. That's where you get yourself with the super, super muddy floor. And you don't even know about those little specks because they're all covered up with mud. Like, you can't even tell these little things that are off. And so Anyway, that's, a lot of times I say this stuff and I'm talking to myself because I have to say this stuff out loud so I can remember to practice it.
Same.
But, anyway, thank y'all for listening to me.
No, you know, good stuff. The one thing it did make me think of, and I think that this goes to kind of Nicco's point, and then we'll try to wrap up, but Anybody that, because I have currently, I have a 30-year-old daughter. Woo. Yeah, you know,
old.
I know. And but anyhow, when you have adult children, you can kind of get the very first window of what it's like to be God. Just the very first twinkle of that, because you can't do shit. You can't do. I cannot tell her you need to do this or that. It does not matter what the hell I say. I could say, "Hey, Brianna, this would be a good idea," and she can ignore me all day long, right? And then when shit falls apart because she didn't do what I told her to, I can look at her and be like, "That sounds familiar." You know, and but at the end of the day, we have to be like God, and we have to go. You know, you fucked up. I forgive you. I love you, and we're having dinner next week.
How can I help you?
Yeah, we're having dinner next week. Why don't you guys come over? Because you fucked up and didn't pay your bills like you're supposed to. Let me help you out with some dinner. And you know, and so those are the kinds of things that, and to be clear, Brianna hadn't done anything dumb. It's just what came to mind.
Right.
Because there's a chance she could watch this and be like, what the hell did I do?
What did I do?
Right. But I think that's kind of how God approaches this is, you know, he's got adult children. And why it's not just children is because that's different. It is different when they're in your house and you have some kind of authority over them that is genuine. But when they're adults and they're living their own life, you really don't have a whole lot of control of what they do, but you might just know what's better for them. And so that's what God does. I want to thank everybody for watching the show and for listening to what we had to say. Nicco, do you have any closing thoughts?
Other than fuck the state, I appreciate everybody sticking around, making it to the end of this podcast. Please do continue to support us, and we will support you. Nothing but love out here.
For sure. Chad?
I appreciate y'all. No. I mean, I've said my piece many times over tonight. I apologize for hogging the mic.
Oh, no, you were good, man. This is all good. It's a team effort. Sometimes it's Chad's night. Sometimes it's my night. And on the rare occasion, it is Nicco's night.
Nicco, it needs to be your night more often, man. You gotta.
You got some gems, man.
I want to start doing something. I'll talk to y'all off air about it, but I have an idea for something that we can kind of kickstart some of that stuff.
Hey, boys, I got y'all. There's things, man. We're working on it. So it's
nice.
Nicco's a gym factory. We just got to get you to not let these two old guys hog the mic so much. Sure. You got to just stomp on us sometimes, kick us in the ass.
But he did good tonight, though. I got to say, lots of gems tonight.
Oh, for sure.
Well, I love y'all, and to everybody that made it to the end of the video, love you too, and just fight those assholes that are trying to enslave you, and stay free.
Peace out.